Right. Well, just passed through the madcap lunas in summer, and we're nearing the blue moon at the end of August. I wanted to chat with y'all about papayas. I don't know, free to call or worship the papaya. My first really intense experience with the papaya came about 5 years ago when I found that I was with a child about 7 weeks along, and I was chasing my 4-year-old around at a park. She tripped. I tripped on a rock, fell down, and hit myself right on my pubic bone and started spotting. So I went to ER, and they said that I could be in big trouble. I didn't think that I wanted to lose it, and so I held on for 3 more days. And after 3 more days, my daughter said, "Your mom," she said, she goes, "You're a rotten potato." I went, "A rotten potato?" Then I heard the voice of this Maharaj Prabhupada down in my head. He goes, Saint Alice. Saint Alice. Saint Alice is a leper saint. And I was like, oh, you mean I got a little dead guy in there? So I went to ER again, and they said, if you don't dismiss the dead guy, then you could be dead. And so I'd heard about the papaya's capacity to do this, to dismiss, a dead guy from inside of your womb. And so I I went to Berryville and got a papaya, and then I proceeded to share it with my daughter, and she ate the spoon meat out of it. And I started spooning in the seeds and crunching them down. And about halfway down through the papaya, my stomach kind of went. And I got a little dizzy, and I went, "Just do it. Just save your own life. Maybe Thumbelina that's in there," which it was, a little teeny tiny fairy, a beautiful little teeny tiny fairy. It didn't need to fall down and go boom at the park, but did. And what happened was about 30 years of sexual history that was all dismissed from my womb temple in the next about 5 or 6 days. And the goriest experience I've ever conceived of as I crawled from the bath to the bed, to the bath, to the bed, to the bath, to the bed. And when the sound of my heartbeat in my ears grew too loud, I called the emergency room and I said, "Am I going to live through this?" And she said, "Not if you don't eat something." It's like, "What am I going to eat?" "I don't have any juice. All I wanted was juice." "You can't drink juice. You have to eat solid food," she said. I managed to make it through that with the help of some angelic brothers and sisters. I managed to make it through that, and I started sauteing onions and eating onions because their pungency purified the womb. The fragrance of the onions purified it so I wouldn't hemorrhage, and I survived. I was, for about 6 months after that, just about completely bedridden, just doing Pilates and fasting a lot. And when I called myself finally, for the first time, really believing it, which I had done before after hours and hours of singing bhajan and doing intense yoga intensives, was a born again virgin. And this time, to be a born again virgin is to be a born again virgin for real. Because we're talking about a whole new womb temple. And in the years that followed, I noticed the population of the earth started to diminish a lot. The global pandemic and the fires and everything, I noticed a great decrease in the population of the earth, which I kind of felt like had something to do with the fact that all my parasites that I've been carrying around my entire lifetime, including former partners, had been dismissed at last from my womb. And one of my former partners actually died in a radical accident on a forklift. All of my partners, I should say, were brought about by a drug-induced state of consciousness that was given from mercury amalgam. You can see it. Yeah. Oh, there's a guy. That's the guy. When I was a virgin, I ate chocolate chip cookies that my stepmom made for me, and everybody knows don't eat your stepmother's cooking because your mom's gonna be pissed. Well, the American Dental Association ganged up to put some mercury in my head, and since I was raised on shellfish, I was so intoxicated that I called up a boy, who had a crush on me since the third grade, and said, I want to do it. Come over right now. Stop at the pharmacy, some prophylactics. I'll do it. And I just started doing it. And then, like, a few months later, I got my first moon. So that was my first experience with papaya. I dismissed about 40 partners from my psychic realm, and I pray for them. And I know who my real friends are because they're my soul brothers who are with me in the spiritual world and are with me because I'm Divine Mother and not just because I was their girlfriend. There's been a few more experiences since then. One of the things that's important to know is that vanity has its role in the papaya seed cleanse. And chomping down on papaya seeds, especially in the middle of a miscarriage, can be pretty violent. Um, at the very end of that, like 7 days of cleansing, I ran some tofu through the juicer to make like pate and some beet juice. And I'm telling you, what came out the other side looked like bubble gum. I don't know if you can imagine that your insides being so clean that there's no remnant of greens or chocolate or anything. It's just like a stick of white chalk, pink white chalk. And I'm going, by God, there really is a white man in this world. And I almost wanted to take a picture of it as I look at it in the porcelain basin. There's a white man in the world, and it was there. We lived on Broadway across the street from Roseburg in Weed, California. So there it is on Broadway, and I pray for all those parasites, those hundreds of thousands of little microscopic parasites, because we all have them, especially if you've never done a papaya seed cleanse, that went up on Broadway. And I pray for them that instead of dying and going to the afterlife, that they just go up on stage and submerge themselves in singing and dancing, which I've done my whole life as my only true identity, besides, some sort of home ec goddess, which of course is inherited in the name Isis too, or innate to the name Isis. Excuse me. I did have my papayas today, and today was a really fun one. I'll talk about it in just a minute. So after that bubblegum pink poo, I got vain a little bit. And in the few years that followed, I tried to do papaya seed cleanses again in hopes of attaining the bubblegum pink poo. Because as soon as it turned green, brown, I was like, no, 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 no. No, I pooped a white poo, pardon my language. And so I'd just get a papaya and I'd eat all the seeds, and then there'd be this long trip afterwards because it's kind of a trip. It's kind of like ayahuasca. I wanted to sing, stretch, dance, pray, commune. I wasn't successful at getting a bubblegum pink poo, but I did find that there were global catastrophes that were happening in direct correlation. There was a mudslide at Uganda. Let's say, Hurricane Michael in Florida. That was a really fun one because my partner was in Florida. And I was having a hard time astrally with other ex-girlfriends. And I was like, you know what? I kept having dreams that the ocean was crashing in on my house, crashing in on my house, crashing in on my house. And finally I was like, that's it. I can't handle this psychic bond. So I went and I ate the seeds of a papaya. And in the middle of the night, a light appeared at the end of the tunnel, and this real kind of cliche Jesus Christ showed up in the tunnel, and he's standing there and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him and I'm going, you don't really expect me to go with you to the end of the tunnel, do you? And my friend who believes in Juramidam, that means not the Christ who's crucified or the Christ who comes like the Grim Reaper, but the Christ who's living amongst us and has already done the purification and knows the teachings and is bringing the Aquarian age in, comes up and he goes, don't pay any attention to that guy, he says. Okay, I really don't think I should be dead. And the next day, I read on the news that there was a vicious hurricane that hit the coast of Florida, wiped it out. That was a few years ago. I've tried to stay off of papaya since then. I've also tried to stay out of relationships that are psychically entangling. Um, these are secrets that are women's secrets. Frida Kahlo may know these secrets about cleansing the pain, cleansing the hurt. When you get an imprint of hurt stuck inside your guts, how are you going to get rid of it? How are you going to get it to stop just playing over and over? And this happens in people's lives that have domestic violence, whether it's in their own marriage or it's from their parents. They keep seeing the same thing going down over and over and over again. And the only thing that can really cleanse that, I suspect, may be the cran papaya. Because when you dismiss all that shit that's hanging on the inside of your insides, then you can be whole again. I heard in like 1985 that the average American by age 50 has 5 pounds of undigested red meat in their colon. And that's a lot of worms. You know what I'm saying? So people, they do this Instagram thing and they're like, I got so many followers, I got so many likes. And I'm like, that's really great. You know, my daughter turns on when I'm playing a song on here or a friend here or there. Got like 20 followers or whatever. That's fantastic, word of mouth. But I don't expect to have any followers because I don't have these parasites. This fame parasite game, it's really magnificent and really beautiful, but I don't consider myself the one that ate the fruit in the Garden of Eden. Because today, the papaya seeds that I had to take had to do with astral ties, feeling possessed, feeling like there was like a clamp down, lockdown on my whole pelvic grail, like made out of metal. That was like, don't move anything. It was like coming from a family, distant, long distant family and things like, this is now my property, like you're my property. Don't move, don't wiggle, don't stretch, don't dance. The psoas muscle was like shut down. It was my baby's daddy's birthday, and so we had a big meal to honor the male energy. And in the few days that followed, we're trying to like offer him the right things because my body was so hollow. It was like conclave on the inside. The summer has been one of those really hollowing summers. Went down to 123, which for me is pretty light. Oh, I'm trying to get down a bit further because dancing on the toes can be abusive to the toenails unless you're really light on your feet. So at about 123, we had a big meal for my baby's daddy's birthday and then tapered it down. And today it was finally when I just hit the wall. That's it. This is too much food in my stomach. It's taking too long for it to move. Can I please just have the papaya? And so I decided to do it a totally different way. Not for vanity, not because I wanted a bubblegum poo, not for dissolving relationships, because I wanted to break up with anybody, not because I was miscarrying a child or because of anything like that, but because it was having hard time digesting so much food in my stomach after like 5 days. We had like those vegan bratwurst. They're so good, right? It's like really cultural food. And when you're completely starving and you have a vegan bratwurst, it's just like with sauerkraut and live coconut yogurt and stuff. Yeah. Well, several days later, it's still in there because it's made out of wheat gluten. And wheat is like the vegetarian equivalent to meat. Wheat, it like stays in your guts, wheat. So I had to be a papaya brat. I had to be a papaya brat today. And I remember when I was a little girl, my dad got this Chinese remedy called po chai pill. And po chai pill was like this little vial, like a little ginseng bottle that had these little teeny tiny little like BBs that would fill this homeopathic Chinese roots. And you would drink it down real quick and then drink your water and chase it, and it would just make your upset tummy all better. What if the papaya is just a po chai pill? I didn't try it. So I take the whole insides of the papaya and I fill up my nice tall blender glass, and I fill it up with a Perrier, whole thing full of Perrier, and I'm swirling it around. I'm swirling it. I don't know what's gonna happen. Every time I take it, I could die, right? You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. So I'm not gonna crunch them down. I'm not gonna crunch them down. I get some of the papaya. Maybe I crunch a few of them down, and then I just swallow them. Just swallow it down. Just swallow it down. Just swallow it down. Nothing's happening. This is great. Nothing's happening. Everything's chill. Feel really good. And to move right through. So maybe this is what Frida Kahlo was talking about. She's talking about the papaya is the po chai pill of the future. And if you just drink it down and you don't chew it, it's not for children. Then what'll happen is it'll cleanse everything out. I mean, you may have a foot long of stuff that you didn't even know was in there. And it just like all better, all good, clean slated. So kind of a live one tonight, talking about papaya seeds, and maybe that's what Frida was talking about. Which I love.